dismantled right now, and it all comes off the back of that man in the top lane. Remember, this is Odoamne's second funnest game of the split, and it's likely going to become his first after making plays like that. It is difficult to argue to put him on a tank when he continues to have these kind of performances on camera.
Well, he's already got double. Splice now can definitely force this Baron fight that they have been looking for since.
Delivery system. The fact that Zach can jump in, bring a target back, you put the ball on top of said targets, instantly into the shockwave. Splice have a really easy way to force a lot of these fights, and now with the massive lead that they've been able to build in the early game, Giants are struggling for answers. They can't play the 1-3-1. They're going to be forced to group, and that is the kind of situation that Splice very much would like.
Setting up that deep vision as they push in the lanes. They'll now go back towards the Baron. Giants always struggle when it comes to Barons later on, and Splice are just trying to make sure that there is no 50-50 here. They want 100% secure on this Baron.
To take a creative path and not get spotted out. Giants will now know, but they're not in a position to contest. Splice take a very clean objective.
Splice's 10th Baron of the split, Benius. One more than Giants have taken. So Splice definitely going to win. That's how it works, right? More Barons, more wins.
Do you want to cast a curse? Is that normally how?
I just want this game to go on for as long as possible.
I mean, I've just been very impressed with how cleanly Splice have been utilizing their early lead. Giants have been known to be very proactive in the early game off the back of Joko, but they drafted towards losing lanes. They picked themselves to Twitch, knowing that the Xayah was on the opposite side. You said how it was odd for Ruin to be playing a Gangplank. Typically, he's known for being a lot more lane dominant on things like the Gnar, and instead, he decides to put himself in another losing matchup, and we saw it during the early laning phase. They expected Splice to not punish. They expected the Splice from last week, where Vitality could just gain control over all across the board and just dismantle Splice. But that was not the Splice that showed up this. But he doesn't realize.
He's fine.
So, turns out Ulti from Camille does in fact stop Rise from teleporting out. Odo didn't realize that. So he decided to walk away. Betsy with a bit of a magic trick there, disappearing. Reappearing again in the same spot.
He's a wizard, Harry.
Well, unfortunately for Odo, he won't be able to secure himself another kill. Love the aggression from him, though. Very similar to what we saw from him in his Vladimir game last week. Just diving straight onto mini Drew backs. This definitely seems to be like a reformed, a new revitalized Odo. Now in the mid lane, putting a bit of pressure down as Splice look to secure themselves. That final inhibitor of the game.
And then just snowballed this game from early advantages from that single kill down towards the bottom side of the map. That's all they needed to really take this game to Giants. Third inhibitor is going to fall. The Baron has fallen off as well, so Splice have to be a little cautious, but you have two waves of super minions already pushing in. That third wave from the top will join them in just a moment. Now looking to close this one out.
Baron has worn off, which does make things a little harder for Splice. But they're just going to continue pushing in. Minion waves slightly desynced with each other, but you've got top and bot pushing in at the same time, which is more than enough to allow Splice to go onto the tower. Now Giants have to try and force a play now.
Joker's going to jump in. There's a counter-strike onto Xerxes, but already Niski's taken out the jungler, and Giants just can't do anything. Odo kills Betsy off towards the top side in a 1v1, and Splice are looking to close this one out. The double shockwave, the double kill. Splice only going to leave Ruin alive, but they will ruin these Nexus towers, and it's taken them 5 weeks. But Splice are finally awake in the early game as they take down Giants in a dominant performance.
27 minutes and 3 seconds. That may very well be our fastest, or at the very least, one of our fastest games of the split. And it was Splice that gave it to us. The late game team, the team that has not really shown an ability to snowball an early lead. This is a brand new Splice that has come into week 5, halfway through the split. And they're going to end their first half for record, and they're now going to equalize with Giants.
That was the fastest game of the split, according to my stats, by about 2 minutes or so, Benny.
Damn.
And it's topsy-turvy, it's upside down. Splice are the team that get the early advantage, they're the team that snowball it, they're the team that take the victory, basically doing to Giants what Vitality did to them last week. And Giants had a poor early game after Joko died, weren't able to get any early advantages, and a lot weaker than we've seen them look in the past.
But I feel like a lot of it comes down to the draft. Giants ended up in a situation where they had 3 losing lanes. The Orianna, I was a little against at first, but Niski made it work and allowed a lot of pressure to come from Niski in the middle lane. The early rotation of the Xayah paired up with the Lulu gave them a lot of strong 2v2 power, especially with Giants picking the Twitch into it as well. I feel like once again we're seeing Splice rely heavily on their draft and taking advantage of it in the current meta.
For our first matchup, our analysts have selected Odawane, Niski, and Cobber as your options for player of the game. Now, I know which one of those had the most fun game, but which one of them played the best, you guys can decide. As
or a 2v1 outplay, maybe.
The 2v1 outplay was pretty good, we'll give that. When we come back, Dracos checks in with Odawane for some thoughts on that win. And H2K have brought in yet another new player for their game against Rocket. More on that when we come back. Jump away from Joko, stretching strike does not connect, but the first blood comes down for Splice. Odo's going to get opened up on Ness's spray and paper. Odo's going to try and turn it back around. Hexagon Maiden comes down and Steelback's down. Odo looking for the 2v1 outplay. Can he jump onto Ruin as well? The cannon barrage, the jump, the Odo get dumped. And Splice are looking to close this one out. The double shockwave, it's taken them 5 weeks, but Splice are finally awake in the early game as they take down Giants in a dominant performance.
Key to unlock his true power.
You have to get 10,000 Zenny points or whatever they're called.
But it's definitely going to be exciting to see what he can do, because a lot of the weight rests on his shoulders right now. HGK don't really have an identity. They've struggled against every team. Their only redeeming quality has been their defeat against Fnatic. And aside from that, we've really seen nothing from this roster. You know, we were expecting a lot more trust in the rookies, and it feels like they haven't been able to live up to that. So we'll see that if Sheriff can perform, now that he's got a new jungler by his side, or whether or not they will continue.
Because it's quite hard to track them and say, look at how much better this support is than the other supports in the league. But Noskeren continues to perform, especially on Braum, his most played. His ability to position well in fights and to turn the tides of a team fight is unparalleled at times.
Now the tense music is because this game is very tense. Look at the scores at the top of your screen. 1-7 for H2K right now, sitting at the bottom of our league alongside the Unicorns of Blood, but Roccat very tightly knit in the middle at 4-4. Splice secured themselves a win earlier, moving them up, but the standing, they're all over the shop.
5-4 is where you want to be at the halfway mark. That's what could win today. Get themselves up there with Splice, with Giants. Very happy with the first half of their split. Kalista, Tom Kent removed from H2K. Zoe and the Talia taken away from Selfie. And a Galley.
Looking at some of the other options that yet to be banned away. Azia was banned earlier in the day. Still very strong. Did receive a bit of a nerf this patch, but still very potent in the middle lane. Rise up and available too. You're looking at some strong bans on the other side, like Prophet has been pretty consistent on things like the Gnar and the Camille. Maybe you want to take him off one of those two big carries in the top lane. Memento, big advocate for the Sejuani. Let's not forget all the steals he was able to get away from Vitality. But it looks like that H2K are gonna ban away the Azir in the middle lane. Now, you would typically expect the Rise to be the first pick. You want to get yourself a strong laner, especially with the Zoe also banned on the side of Roccat. We've seen Blanc bring it out before. Both him and Prophet have this excellent 1-3-1 synergy that they've demonstrated multiple times. And I think that the mid laner of Roccat can be pretty happy securing that pick from him.
Getting the Rise for himself. 2-1 on that across the course of this split. One of his comfort champions nonetheless. And there's the Xayah lock in. This draft looking very similar to the Giants one that we had just a couple of moments ago. H2K getting Sheriff a strong laner in that bottom lane.
Interesting how already this in week 5 we've seen a little bit more priority on the Xayah. Feels like AD carries now value a little bit more, getting that strong 2 versus 2. Makes me wonder if, given the recent nerfs to Unseal Spellbook, if that has affected that priority ever so slightly. But it seems HUK gonna pick a very similar trend to what Splice did earlier in the day, locked themselves in their mid very early on.
Yes. Xayah and Orianna, their first rotation picks. I was gonna say neither of these two have been played by H2K yet this split. And the Camille. Camille top lane is definitely a contested pick this week.
I feel like Camille right now is the strongest top laner in the current meta. She has very few answers to deal with her. Smitty J last week picked the Fiora into the Camille. There's a Chachi's, and during the laning phase he struggled, but in the side lane it was definitely a potent answer given your ability to outscale in terms of the 1 versus 1. But I feel like that would be a bit of a risk to take from the side of H2K, because what right now it seems is that they're drafting themselves a bit more of a straightforward composition. You have Engage with the Rakan, you have a powerful 2v2 bot lane, you have a winning matchup in mid, and you're already setting yourself up for pretty decent scaling. You have early pressure. Seems much more well-rounded compared to previous comps we've seen from H2K.
Full delivery system already there as well with the Rakan going in. You can get a great Orianna combo off there. We're seeing that team fight, mid-game spiking sort of team composition worked so well for Splice earlier on.
Gat's composition, and I also think playmakers are stuff that Noskeren loves to get himself. Just really set up these mid to late game fights. We've talked about how he is really good in these team fights, his positioning and execution. And it's nice to show that respect coming out from the side of H2K.
But there is the Alistair ban. Great prediction from you there, Benny. It's not something we always think about. That extra little bit of utility for the team, but Roccat do still have the Braum available if they want it. They could go down to something like a Shen or a Taric as well, so it's not exhausting the champion pool of Northgaren.
I feel like Roccat just want to get away from the strong junglers, like Kha'Zix would be another good ban here. Instead, they're actually showing the respect towards Smitty J. We were just talking so much about the Fiora and saying it would be a very risky thing to pick into this draft. Roccat saying, you know what? Thinking about it, Fiora's probably the only champion right now that you can really pick into a Camille, and every other matchup is actually pretty weak. You can still go for something like a Gnar, but in terms of the side lane pressure, it's definitely going to fall off later into the game.
We've seen the Gangplank already today as well. That is what Smitty J will take into the Camille, but it's a very difficult lane matchup to play. You do scale up very well. There's the Caitlyn for Q, a safe AD carry for him. Will be his 4th game of the split there, and Northgaren looking for his support.
But maybe they go for something a little bit more risky. I don't think, I can see the Braum. I know it's Northgaren's comfort pick, and I feel like that it makes sense in the sense that it's valuable for him, but I don't know if it makes the most sense going up against that kind of a comp.
And it's odd to see H2K leave their jungler for the last pick. It's not something that always happens with teams. Usually it's a mid laner or a top laner looking for that direct counter pick. Here they've gone for the jungler, and it might be that Zach we talked about.
I think that it facilitates, I think it works nicely with the Rakan. This is very much what Spice were looking to go for last game, when you have the strong mid, you have the strong bot. Sure, they're going to lose in terms of the 1v1 up top side, but your Zac now isn't just going to get permanently invaded by Roccat. Because one thing that we saw last week was when Kadro was in the jungle, they had 3 losing lanes, and then Kadro didn't get a jungle. Sure, it's his return to the LCS. He needs to make sure that he's having a comfortable early game, playing in a new environment with a new team, and guaranteeing strong lanes compared with a Zac who can be a big playmaker and pretty active in the early game. I think we'll try and limit the amount of snowballing that Camille has, because while Camille should be able to beat Gangplank in the 1 versus 1 later on, teamfight value, Gangplank is always going to have that extra bit of an advantage, given that he will scale with crit, and also the ultimate that is just so much global pressure that you always have to respect.
And on the other side, it seems that we have more of a 1-3-1 composition coming out here from Roccat, with the Camille up in the side lane, the Rise there as well, and the H2K have the Splice comp, so maybe if the track record serves, we are looking at H2K's 2nd win of the split, with Shook now in the team.
Well, a lot of pressure is going to fall onto Shook. 1-7 H2K. Currently the worst performing team in the European LCS, sitting at the bottom of the table alongside the Unicorns of Love. Only Trevor Quickshot Henry has predicted H2K to win out in this matchup today. And we shall see if Shook can carry the weight of this team, because a lot of pressure is going to be on him. You can see, can he shake things up?
I love the puns we come up with.
I mean, it's a wonderful stats team, really supporting us in that one. And these are some of his stats from the 2017 EU LCS Summer. You can see, in terms of his jungle proximity, he was relatively low compared to a lot of the other junglers in the past. His kill plus assist early game, also relatively low. Compare that to this split, though. That is actually pretty high.
These would all be in the top 1 to 3 at the moment. Jungle proximity of 40% is incredibly high. Kill plus assist at 1.8 is very high as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to remember the meta's changed a little bit. We didn't have stopwatches then, so
very
people couldn't get out of it. We didn't have the double relic shield meta.
But that's what the stats indicated relative to how Shook did versus other junglers. But for me, one of the things that I remember about Shook is when he played on NIP was that he found a surprising number of early ganks and early leads for NIP. It was just the mid-game where things started to crumble. And going up against Roccat, you would hope that things change, because I feel that Roccat is one of the best performing mid-game teams currently in our league.
We have to see if they are able to utilize those mid-game windows of opportunity, because H2K do have the pushing lanes that we talked about, and sometimes getting forced back in your lane can delay that mid-game a little bit, meaning that you don't have as many options because the enemy team is just a little bit ahead of you coming towards the middle portion of a matchup. Now,
okay.
No.
After
you, good sir.
Oh, very well.
You.
I will. So I was only going to talk about some of the matchups that we have across the board, because
that was what I was going to do as well.
Oh, wonderful. Great minds think alike. So I want to start down in the bottom lane. It's not the best. I feel like the Rakan, it's very easy for him to get engaged onto this kind of a bot lane. And while the shield is good against something like the feathers from the Xayah, I still feel like it doesn't really mitigate a lot of what Xayah Rakan is good at, which is snowballing a lot of it.
Totally agree with you there. If you pick the Braum, you're looking to try and block out that feather storm. The is part of Braum's power in lane is concussive blows.
Exactly.
And the Rakan jumps in on you, you get one proc off, and then he jumps away, and you just can't chase him down.
Exactly.
We have seen some Braums going for the Glacial Augment to try and get a little bit more sticking power.
Yeah, makes sense. Go. And in team fights, you gotta watch his positioning, because this guy always seems to be in the right place at the right time. He just seems to do so many things well. So we can track that later on into the game. That's the bot lane matchup. Mid lane matchup we talked about in the last matchup. Now we see a bit of a trade down the bottom lane, but this is what you're talking about, right? You try to lock down that Rakan, but very difficult with the amount of ability that he has, and H2K are able to successfully walk off with a successful trade.
And you can see Norskeren and Hiku realize this. Doran's shield on Hiku, minion dematerializer on Norskeren as well to try and get push in the lane. Blank's going to teleport back here after getting himself a tier pickup. Does have a minion dematerializer of his own to try and mitigate the push that Selfie will have naturally in this matchup. And
I'm surprised by how far back Selfie is playing, because this is not typically what you expect.
Does this the flash away from Selfie?
And this is why I wanted to talk a little more about this mid lane matchup, because this is typically not what you would expect from the 1 versus 1. Orianna should be using her range to her advantage to make it difficult for the Ryze to ever really come up to her and get those kind of combos off. But given the pressure that Memento's putting down in this early game,
have to back away here from Memento as well. But this is good pressure from the Roccat jungler, getting in, putting the pressure down, getting some deep vision off here, Vedius.
And I love talking about Memento in the early game, because while last game we heard a lot about how Joko loves to set up a lot of early plays, Memento is all about vision. This guy loves to ward. Vision score is another thing that you can just keep your eyes on with this man, because he is all about control in the early game. He does not want his laners to fall behind. He wants to get them to the mid-game point where they...
Here, promise you can jump back, and this is so beautiful.
Insta-back.
Insta-back, straight away. You protect your AD carry, you lose out nothing from it, you go back, you get a BF sword, and you're feeling pretty darn good about the lane now.
So happy, in fact, that he's even dancing, ladies and gentlemen. This guy, known for being lane dominant, known for building up pretty significant lane advantages by playing these split pushes. And Nart and Camille are two of the champions that he's shown such proficiency.
Jungler was near him in the early game, but he steps forward so much. Deficio mentioned this on the analyst segment earlier on. 51% of the time in the early game, CSD.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but Prophet, former SKT player, when he played for NIP, he didn't have that kind of a performance, but now it feels like that he's stepping up much more compared to the past.
He was used in the bottom lane, but it's weird how, you know, Prophet left SKT, they brought in Intara, they brought in Huni, and SKT just started collapsing, Vedius. Do you think it was Prophet who made SKT good?
Maybe, you know, and now he could be the one to bring Roccat to new heights, right? It's been a while.
Be world champions.
It's been a while since they've been in playoffs for the... A huge amount of action has happened. We've been able to talk about literally every lane.
I've got more.
Tell me.
So you talk about the split style from Prophet, and we talk about his laning, but so much of it is about how you translate good laning stats and good laning numbers to... Now that Blank doesn't have a get-out-of-jail-free card with the stopwatch and with the realm wall.
Well, that's one of the big questions relating to the changes to Ryze, because the reason why Ryze was so good, enemy team can't catch you, and you're able to successfully punish.
Pretty even early game here between H2K and Roccat. H2K playing their first game with Shook, and it's looking a little bit better in the early game here. Shook not falling behind too much. CS not always the best representation of jungle numbers and jungle experience, although he is about a level down, but he's getting deep vision in, trying to keep a track of his enemy jungler, and this is the experience that Shook has as a jungler. Not connect, Blanc, trying to get some damage down off towards the side as well. Memento tanking this one up. Now it's Blank, and Roccat will get away.
Nice roam up towards the top side, utilizing the Ryze. Now we need to see if H2K can answer down on the bottom side.
The quickness comes out, there's the double knock as well. Sheriff on his way, the flash away, but Hiku's brought back. Let's bounce, jumps in. Hiku there, Shook in the front line, the ball. There's the kill for H2K, they're looking for a little bit more with the shockwave from the side. No scare and push a Fisher down, but it's a double kill for H2K. And who's underselling Shook now?
Great answer from H2K, successfully getting themselves some early kills on the board. Was just about to bring up how I'd love to see Shook trying to play towards this 2v2 in the bot. You have Isaiah Rakan, really easy to make dives happen. But and they found the perfect opportunity. The moment Memento was spotted up topside, they wanted to try and shut the gangplank down early on, and while they get themselves first blood and the first and a kill down onto the mid laner of Roccat, it's H2K that are able to successfully answer down the bottom side.
That they do, and you can see Roccat reacting, moving with...
There are 3 people. Roccat, by plenty of time, by managing the tower aggro, and unfortunately for Rockat's bot lane, they didn't really have a tower to play behind. Given the Plunk was already in the top lane, it made it very easy for Selfie to roam down the bot, and if you think 3 members are difficult to stall out, while 4 is even harder. So, good setup there from H2K, and this is definitely a positive sign of light for the side of H2K. Being more proactive in the early game, playing around their strong laners, and getting themselves an early goal lead.
10 minutes in, it's about 300 gold for them. 20 CS ahead for Sheriff. There's a 20 CS difference in that top lane as well between Prophet and Smitty J. Gold is even across the board, but you're looking at 600, 500 here or there. Because Smitty J has Kleptomancy as his keystone rune, he's actually still even on gold with Prophet, even after being an assist and 20. Do that, Vedius.
Which is very much that for H2K, could Shook change the identity of this team, or will H2K continue on a trajectory to being one of the worst teams in EU LCS history? And the reason why I can make that kind of a claim is because of statistics like the one presented on screen.
So H2K average 1,384 damage a minute this split. The Unicorns of Love, who are at the same scoreline, average 1,727.
Just below average.
The average for the league is, as you say, 1,858. And H2K have the lowest team damage a minute since we started tracking the statistic.
Yes, that is how low this damage per minute is, and it just echoes the sentiment of how poorly H2K have been able to really make things happen during the regular season, and that's why eyes were on Shook. Can he be the one to change the identity? And so far in this early game, he is making things happen. He has already answered some of the early pressure from Roccat, but they need to keep this pressure up. It's not all sunshine and rainbows for Roccat. H2K have a pretty compelling lead at this point in the game, and they have still a strong 2v2 that they're moving around the map and looking to try and push down some early towers.
It's very similar to the game between Splice and Giants previously. However, H2K haven't been able to take towers yet, which is something Splice were doing by this portion of the game. With the same composition or thereabouts, H2K need to start to look to get these objectives, because if they don't, they will allow Roccat to scale up. They'll allow this Camille to get even bigger. 30 farm ahead now. They're going to use the Rift Power down towards, up towards this top lane. They try and answer the pressure from Prophet down in the bottom, and they should get first tower blood with this, which will put them a little bit further in the league.
But remember, H2K, their comp still scales quite nicely as well. They do have good team fighting later on. Gangplank, Orianna, Xayah, all really powerful once they hit the 2-item mark especially. And you have good initiation with the Zac and the Rakan. So I definitely think H2K have late game win conditions available. Let's see if Roccat can force something in the early game.
Maybe Grief is to stay for this blue buff. H2K going to get away with 4 members. Blank there, looking for the stun onto Shook, but can't. Roccat escape.
Very close there for Prophet. Very near to death. But H2K played that as well as they could. Shook utilizing everything at his disposal to be able to stay alive. Cell Division coming in clutch, and a good answer there from players like Selfie to use the shockwave and punish the overcommitment from Roccat.
Selfie having a much stronger performance this week than last. Only got 2 kills, I believe, last week. Actually, no, didn't get a kill last week, so infinitely better than his last week's performance with 2 kills thus far. It's having so much fun this game, Vedius.
It certainly is. Just looking across some of the CS advantages as well. Smitty J still struggling, but you looked at the gold earlier on. Again, the Kleptomancy doing him a lot of favors, keeping things not as far apart as they may seem in the score.
He's ahead.
So Kleptomancy, by the way, pretty advantageous summoner spell to go if you know you're in a losing matchup.
There's 1,300 gold between the AD carries here as well. Sheriff, who is someone we picked up before the split as a very promising rookie coming in, now maybe is in a position where he can put the team on his back to a degree. He hasn't had the best of performances. Only that Vayne game against Fnatic he really showed up. But this is the opportune moment for him to solidify himself as an LCS caliber player.
He's doing a good job of it so far. 15 minutes now into the game. And H2K hold a healthy gold lead. I can hear Riot Quickshot definitely getting pretty excited. Again,
I was joined first with amazing.
what can we say? Maybe Quickshot is the one true problem.
Maybe it's the fever, just making good decisions.
There's plenty of time left in this game. We'll see how things progress now. Promiscu sitting in the bush, waiting for a potential pick.
H2K being a bit more proactive here, getting
like
vision control, looking for some deep pushes in. Roccat gonna trade in this bottom lane as Profit once again. Get some damage onto Smitty J, as expected in that lane matchup at the moment.
Full control over the top side of Rocket's jungle from H2K, really utilizing the strength of the Zyra Rakan, along with the pushing power of Selfie on the Orianna, who seems to be playing a lot more confidently after the blunder that he made earlier on.
And Sheriff now has an Essence Reaver completed. Selfie's got the Morello Nomicon complete as well, and yet to see a complete item on Hiku. Only the Zeal and the reminiscence of H2K of old, when they were making plebs, when they were challenging for those top spots.
I don't know if I'd go that far just yet.
It's not the same, but it's better than it is. Let's give them something.
Sure, I definitely admit that this is better from H2K, but it's not like we haven't seen H2K go even for a lot of the game until Baron spawns. And that will be the true test. Because remember, I said that Rocket, I feel, are one of, if not the best mid-game team in the league. And the reason for that is, in League of Legends, every time you push out a wave, you create what is effectively an opportunity, or otherwise known as a window. And during that window is effectively your turn to make a play. And I feel that Rocket are the best team when it comes to utilizing those windows. They are so proactive with their vision. They always have a clear game plan with each step that they take, and they're often very clean and crisp in how they do it. And I think this will be, as we approach the 20-minute mark, a good opportunity, a good
of that as well is, are Rocket in a position where they can make proactive plays? Being behind in gold, about 1,000 behind, having Sheriff already items ahead of Hiku, having Selfie with 2 kills for only 1 sitting on blank. Are Rocket in a position they can actually utilize mid-game windows?
I mean, remember that they still have a strong side lane in Camille, and Rocket are very aware of where H2K are trying to play, which is towards the top side of the map. And given that kind of information, Rocket, all they need to do is stall to allow Profit to continue making plays. Because the one thing that Rocket can guarantee is a number advantage over their opposition, and they can try and force a fight.
Prison on towards Sheriff, who flashes away, but here's the Realm Wolf as well. The Feather Storm comes down, look for the Blade Caller, ace in the hole, the root on Sheriff. Promiscu protects him, the Shockwave onto Profit, that's a lot of damage coming out. The Hexag Ultimatum and Norskaven secures the kill on Sheriff. Rocket make the pick they wanted.
Do you remember that numbers advantage I was just talking about, Medic? This is what I mean. Profit pushes out bot, he can then group up with his team, and Rocket can force a fight. Because even if you're behind, 5 versus 4 is almost always guaranteed to win. Love the proactiveness from Rocket. Gold still in H2K's favor, but it will definitely alleviate some of the pressure that H2K have been exerting.
Definitely does, especially since H2K have still only taken 1. Has finished Triforce now, so is starting to get towards more items on this gangplank. Will be able to have much more of an impact in team fights if he's there.
Certainly can be, but he's going to be pretty reliant on getting a couple of those items as well. So look at the minimap. You can see Camille running up through the river, and that is when Rocket decide to initiate, because Gangplank is catching the wave. Pings even went down onto him to indicate that he won't be able to join the fight. Only his ultimate will be involved, and that's not going to be enough to swing a 5 versus 4 in the favor of H2K. Those are the kind of proactive plays you need to be making when you're behind. And it was good of Rocket to recognize that.
That's exactly what you said, Vedius. Mid-game opportunities, mid-game windows, and they're looking to do it once again. Realm Wolf available here for Blanc. He's going to jump in onto Sheriff. Promiscu there as well, but these two members of H2K are just stuck in the middle of the team. Rocket will be able to pick up Sheriff eventually. EQ looking to secure it. Sheriff can't make a 1v3 outplay. Promiscu's going to actually still be caught off towards the top side of this. Can get towards the blast cone. Will try and use it to jump away, but Momento's going to follow him. Promiscu still has the grand entrance, but there is the Glacial Prism, and there is the mace to the face of Promiscu.
Bit of a slip up there from H2K. They thought that, hey, we're still pretty strong right now. Hey, we can keep pushing up top lane. Rocket immediately looked to capitalize, utilizing their mid-game strength once again, and now ascertaining the gold lead once more.
After they take this tower, they will be in the gold lead. H2K, though, at the 20-minute mark, were ahead. It's only the second time they've been ahead this split at 20 minutes. usually about 2,000 gold behind. So it's not the end of the world for them, but they don't want to do this again.
HJK at this point are just like, oh no, They got caught in the bird cage. Roccat very quickly with multiple members crushed the bird cage, and the birds unfortunately were not able to make it out with their lives.
That was overly graphic.
A little vivid, I admit, but there we are. HJK end up losing their bottom lane to Roccat, now getting themselves the kill advantage. They took themselves out the top tower as well, and now things like the Baron start to come into play.
Could have gone with something like caught in the tundra because they forgot to migrate.
Oh, good one. That's a good one.
If only I'd thought of that while I was actually casting it. It's very easy after the fact, and I'm sure H2K will be ruining the fact that they got caught out there because they did have deep pressure, they did have some vision into the Roccat jungle, which they've now lost.
Now, if they can just get Gangplank onto one more item, they can look to force fights.
Flash in straight onto a trap, though. Here goes the double shockwave, the knocker. What a play from H2K!
And before I get the opportunity to talk about it, there it is. The team fight power, the wombo combo that H2K have with their comp is very strong. They were not out of this game just yet, and all they needed to do was be willing to make the play, and this is where Shook comes in. This is the guy that helps facilitate this kind of proactiveness, and they answer back to Roccat and secure themselves under the turn.
Second tower of the game, and the gold lead once again. And an Infernal Drake coming up in only 25 seconds time. H2K will try and get some vision around this. They played around a window of opportunity that they found. And a lot of that is off the back of Shook. Selfie having a very strong performance on this Orianna as well with that double ball delivery system.
Yeah, he's been steadily picking up those kills. Very, very strong at this point in the game. And Roccat, they're just clearing out the minion waves. Don't expect this engage, but just look at it. Shook brings them together. The charm keeps them in place. Selfie gets the damage. Sheriff has the follow-up route. Such a clean initiation. Well done.
Oh, Roccat trying to answer here. You talked about mid-game windows. They saw an opportunity because the Infernal Drake was started by H2K, and Roccat are going for the Baron. 5,008. He left on it, H2K not near it. Shook looking for the lead pick, and he's knocked back, he's knocked up. The Bishop from Northscaven is beautiful. The realm warp out, and Roccat get out scot-free.
It's constantly back and forth with these two teams. H2K are the ones to blink the first play. Roccat answer. H2K then find an answer of their own, and when they're feeling confident, they go for the dragon. They think it's the smart play. Bang! Roccat show up once again, securing themselves the Baron, but the gold still even, man.
Don't think many people would have expected that coming into this game. Let's have another look at this because Northscaven is your man to watch here.
This is why we praised him for his broad play. The combo, the knock-up to interrupt the jump over the wall, the Sejuani ults follow-up. This is why it's a comfort pick for him. This is why you always have to keep your eyes on him, even when you think it's not the best pick in the current set.
So now Roccat have a Baron. They've got Blank up in a side lane. They've got Camille down in the side lane as well.
Yeah.
They are looking to collapse a little bit here, but there's good vision control from H2K, so they should be safe for the moment.
Definitely going to be looking to set up the 1-3-1. In fact, it's quite interesting that Prophet has grouped up with the rest of his team. Perhaps he just wants to make sure that they're a 5-man, as Roccat look to get a bit of deep vision down. Instead, they're gonna back away. There's a red buff to be picked up for Hikyu. Sejuani wants to make sure that there's a little bit more deep vision towards the top side so that when Blanc looks to push, he knows who is in the enemy jungle.
Doesn't have that get out of jail free card anymore. Has to be aware of that.
Yep. Now we see the sweeps coming out from HK, so Blanc should have to back up. Love to see the Camille start pushing in a little more aggressively now, knowing that he should still be stronger in the 1 versus 1. Prophet's still one of the big, key, reliable playmakers, and now again, utilizing that window, moving over to the mid, they're gonna look to take this mid tier 1.
Prophet's just acting as a zoning tool more than anything else here. 1 minion left, and we'll be able to take down the tower. Roccat with their 3rd of the game, a 1,000 gold lead for them, but very much back and forth. H2K, risk averse at the moment. They want to step back. They don't want to give up anything in their own jungle, so they're just trying to protect towers as that tier 2 line, rather than stepping any further up.
Again, H2K, they're not completely out of this yet. They just need to stall, hold off the Baron, make sure that not too much damage is done to their base. Look to see if they can force a fight somewhere. Spinach is still scaling up as the Starrick's now completed. and that'll definitely help him a little bit more in the 1 versus 1. He just wants to get to a point where his barrels can instantly wave clear the wave, and then he's not as afraid of Camille as he typically would be up until that point. And they have got Memento.
Red buff there is going to get smited away by Memento. There's the Glacial Piston start onto Shook as well, and maybe he's overextended the route down towards the top side as well. Promiscu goes golden, he's trying to jump away. Shook looking for the re-engage. Promiscu there, double charge, selfie, Shockwave on 1, already one's down. Promiscu on the fight as well. Promiscu jumps him up, Hexagon remain amused. Shook in the mid Soul Division, he's down, but he'll be back. And now Blank and Prophet are trying to get away. They'll realm warp, and they get to safety. 1 for 1 thus far. H2K can't chase any further.
And you can see that the team fighting from H2K is still pretty potent. Shook positioning fantastically in these fights to just buy a lot more time to allow his carries to reposition and dish out the damage. Hiku is not having the impact that he would typically like in a lot of these team fights, and he ended up dropping. There's some good play there from the side of H2K. Very back and forth game so far. And I think we can both confidently say there's definitely a step-up improvement from H2K's of previous weeks. So, Roccat feels that they can force a fight right now. Again, look in the middle lane, you can see the Camille moving up for a potential flank, but Memento takes a lot more damage than they would like to initially, and then a big misplay there from EQ, stepping up to try and follow on the engagement from Norskeren. Very quickly gets punished by the support from H2K. Yes, it cost him his life, but an AD trade for support, always going to be worth it for H2K, and they've successfully stalled out the Baron.
SmittyJ did teleport into the fight because he was dealing with a pushing wave in that bottom lane, so he won't have his TP. Boffis is coming off cooldown relatively soon. EQ has not had the best performances, as we mentioned, on that Caitlyn. 3 deaths in this game. Up until today, he's only died once on Caitlyn in the 3 games that he has played it previously. So really not being as safe on that backline. Maybe something like a Taric pick would have helped over this Braum pick for a little bit more security in a team fight.
Regardless, he's definitely going to be important in the fights to come. Roccat don't need to necessarily force them though. They're utilizing the fact that they feel like they're stronger. When you fight in the jungle like that, and the best thing you can do is focus the front line, it just felt like H2K had a lot more damage at this point in the game that were able to faster get through Memento than Roccat were able to get through Shook. And I feel like trying to force that play wasn't necessary when they had Prophet drawing so much pressure up on the rest of the map.
It's of course important to remember the match of the week is up next. Vitality 7 and 1.
Game 4.
Game 4, sorry, yes. Game 4. Couple of matches time. Vitality 7 and 1 trying to take down the champs in G2. There's the let's bounce back. They pull Memento in, but Roccat have the flank here. Prophet there. Selfie looking for a shockwave. Will get it only on towards Prophet. Chef trying to survive. He'll go down. Blank kills Promiscu down towards the bottom side as well. And now Shook's in the midst. It's Selfie, but he's caught out. Here comes SmittyJ. What can he do? The top laner finally joins the fray. But H2K are running away from this one because they don't want to continue this fight. They lose 3 members and Prophet comes up huge.
Roccat utilizing the TP advantage that they had. You recognized it earlier on, Medic. SmittyJ used the CP to get into that last team fight, which meant that Roccat could very quickly generate a numbers advantage before SmittyJ could get involved, and now Roccat securing a big team fight win, get themselves another tower, and they're looking for more.
4,000 gold lead for them now as they look for this mid lane tower. If they can secure this, you have to think it may be the beginning of the end for H2K, who are still trying to hold on for these 3rd items on their main carriers. Gangplank only sitting on the Zeal. Sheriff died so many times recently. We said it was his opportunity to step up, and he just continually gets caught out in fights.
It is pretty difficult for him too when he's playing up against the Camille, who is very eager to lock him down. So here's the TP, the collapse from Rise as well into the river, and the swift rotation. EQ and Norskeren. Their eyes are on Sheriff, and they lock him down effectively. He's too far away from Promiscu, who can't really offer much in the way of support. So much single top. Selfie's just doing his best in these fights, but he can't get onto the targets that he wants. He doesn't have a front line that he can really rely on when the fight is as chaotic as that. And it enables Roccat to get a pretty effective team fight off. And
they're looking for that 5-4 scoreline as well. They want to join Splice, they want to join Giants at a positive win rate halfway through the split. Very strong mid-game from them. We talked about their ability to see an opportunity, to jump on it. That's exactly what they've done against H2K here, and they come out of that 10-minute stretch with a 5,000 gold lead after being slightly behind H2K, at the 20-minute mark.
Now HOK are looking for that one big fight. We've already seen the wombo combo in action before. The double kill that they got onto Hiku and Noskarian was great. Roccat, though, want to be first on the trigger.
And Roccat want to fight as well. Cannonbarrage going to zone out Profit here. HOK will just go back into their own jungle. Profit does take a chunk. There's the ace in the hole as well. Selfie will be able to tank that one up. Here comes Shook jumping in from the back line. He's only going to ignore Scareman back. Don't want to use too much on the support, but they will take him down. HOK now pushing forward towards Roccat.
This is very risky from Roccat, constantly trying to force these fights when HOK do have the better 5v5. Especially when you miss so many crucial abilities. The longer you stay in these fights, the more opportunities you give HOK to look for a return play. Love the engages coming out from Shook, nice confidence from him, and now it is HOK that are looking to bait the Baron.
I've just been spotted at the edge of that. They're going to start it up as well, but Roccat, we've seen Memento steal before, promiscuing from the side, the shockwave, they kill Blank! And now HOK can look for the Baron. Still 3 members left alive from Roccat. Memento could steal.
Remember how many he's stolen before. Shook, can he secure this for his team?
That's what you need a veteran jungler to do, but Profit doesn't even want the Baron to go low. He jumps in onto Smitty J. Profit's down. Memento trying to kill Shook before he can get the Baron, but he just can't do enough. Cell Division passive is used in HOK. Will they turn back towards the Baron? Because Noskarian is on his way. Looks like HOK are willing to back away for the moment.
HOK secure themselves a lot of kills and unfortunately are not able to get themselves the Baron. But TP available on the Gangplank. Looks like HOK don't want to overcommit. They recognize a lot of ultimates are unavailable and overstaying could really hurt them.
How much better is this from H2K though? They fell 5,000 gold behind, now it's only
Sheriff.
3,000. Sheriff is going to stop his port. Shook is there as well. Hiku on the chase. He's trying to make a big play on this Caitlyn. Noskarian there as well. Here's Memento. Cannonbarrage down. The TP coming in from Smitty J as HOK try and keep their AD alive. Memento now realizes he's not in the best of shapes. Smitty J joins the fight. Memento flashes away. Will they save their AD carry? Will they get out alive? Smitty J has to flash. Promise Q looking for the quickness but won't go for the engage.
Now Profit doesn't have his TP up, but it will be ready soon. Memento gonna regen from the Warmogs. And now they have their eyes set on the Baron. Smitty J can't TP into the fight. Sheriff is going to be forced to go back, and Roccat, they're going to be kicking this off.
It's up to H2K. It's up to Shook, the veteran jungler, trying to make a play for the team. It's down to 5,000 HP as Roccat continue on the Baron. They pulled off the quickness onto Profit, trying to catch him out. There's the shotgun double knockup. Profit somehow still alive with the lock of the eyes alive. But the next bounce brings them all back into the team. Selfie, cleanse. They're going to get on towards Roccat now. Double kill for Shook. And H2K clean up the fight.
Another huge wombo combo coming in for H2K. And it feels like Roccat just keep getting bored into these fights. They need to be playing the map, but their eyes are so focused on the Baron. H2K are getting everything that they want.
Memento can feel the steal here. He knows that he can do it. He's done it before. Shook on the Baron. Blanc kills Promise Q. Shook still there. He's so low. Doesn't have the division, but he does have the smite. And now they'll turn on to Roccat. Hiku trying to do what he can. Sheriff's going on towards Blanc here as well. Double kill for Sheriff and H2K. Get out alive.
H2K succeed with the Baron and are able to walk away with it with their whole team intact. Who'd have thought that bringing in Shook would be exactly what they needed? Selfie level 18 on this Orianna, 5, 0, and 7. So many members are now stepping up for H2K, and they could be on track to getting their second win of the split.
These Baron fights just kept on going.
Now that shockwave, not the best one for H2K, but it doesn't matter because Shook redeems it. Getting a 3-man ultimate onto so many crucial members allows the AoE from the Xayah and the Ori to just rip through this H2K lineup. Fantastic performance from them. Bit of an overstep from Promise Q, but he does force Memento back. Shook gets insanely low, but is still able to secure the Baron. They then walk away with a couple extra kills, and now they're in a position to jump onto Roccat. Think of the diving power of this comp. H2K in a very good position right now.
Just want to group up as 5. H2K don't care about side lanes. They don't care about how big Profit is. They want team fights. They want to force this bottom lane tower. Promise Q's going to engage all the way on the back line. Double shockwave as well. Blank's pulled back. Noskarian there as well. Blank is still alive though. Pops the realm walk. Can he get away? No, he cannot. As H2K take down 2 and Trevor. Quick shot Henry might be right here, Betty, because H2K are looking to close out the game.
H2K looking so convincing with a single roster change. Shook comes in, he makes all the difference, and H2K H2K are just one tower away from securing the win over Rocket.
Shook's going to sacrifice himself, but it's just one Nexus tower between H2K and their second victory of the split. Rocket would be the ones to fall, and H2K would be the ones to take the win. Prophet trying to do what he can, but he just can't do enough. H2K took them to week 5, but finally they come alive, they clean up the ace, and they take down the Nexus.
Shook was all they needed.
Shook was all it took, man. He got to shake things up.
The initiation, the proactiveness, the difference this guy made to the team is fantastic for H2K roster. Yes, you do have to criticize Rocket for not playing towards their win conditions. Typically, you would expect them to be a lot more respectful of the team fighting power of H2K, but instead, fight after fight, initiation after initiation, Rocket just kept trying to force. And H2K demonstrated we will not back down, we will not give up. We can still win out on these fights. They were able to do it, and with a single Baron, it is they that close out the game quickly rather than having the game closed out on them.
And what a change-up for them as well. H2K gone from a team that we thought might have been the worst in EU LCS history to a team that looks to be challenging maybe for that 6th playoff spot if they continue to improve.
They need to keep this upward trajectory. 1-7, well now 2-7 at the end of the first half is definitely going to be a bit of an uphill struggle, but we've seen teams do it in the past. And perhaps they could look to join those teams. But what a great performance from H2K.
And a bad performance from Rocket, I think we have to say. Like, their mid-game, we still saw them utilizing windows of opportunity, we still saw them making some plays, but it felt like they got a bit overconfident and kept trying to force fights.
Definitely felt like that. They were not utilizing the 1-3-1 as well as they did versus Vitality last week. It's going to cost them here, and hopefully they can learn from it moving into next week. But congratulations to H2K securing themselves their second win.
Yeah, be sure to hit us up with your player of the game, which comes from H2K, something we haven't commonly said. Smitty J, Shook, and Selfie are your candidates. Head over to @LollySports on Twitter, where you can decide who comes out on top. And I think
it's got to be Shook, man. I mean,
you
can definitely
Selfie
credit
had
Selfie
such a
as well.
performance.
He definitely did, but I just feel like that Shook comes in on a really struggling team. A lot of pressure on his shoulders, he just shakes it off, he plays like he does, and he has a great performance. So, very enjoyable to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing what H2K can bring out over the next few weeks. Will they this team fight style? Will they look to try and change things up? Regardless, I feel like we're starting to see a bit more of an identity from this roster than we have so far.
And in terms of like draft and the way they play, you have to remember Veteran isn't averse to switching things up if needs be, but looking at it now, Vedius, looking at who made the plays for H2K, I think I have to agree with you that Shook is probably my pog as well.
I mean, it was very enjoyable to watch. We got a lot of fights. Typically, you don't want to watch H2K in the past because they really don't do anything, but now they just seem so much more proactive. They're not afraid to really get scrappy, go for those fights. Even when at deficits, they were willing to try and make plays, and that is great to watch. Love seeing that adaptation, especially when you are so far down during the regular season. You need to be willing to take these chances. You know, you have to be willing, if you want to fight for a playoff spot, take those kind of gambles. And today, I feel like we saw a first sign of that, and we saw a very promising-looking H2K.
You have to remember the experience that Shook does have. He's been to Worlds in the past. You know, he has performed at the biggest stage in the world. Got kaboomed there, but we don't talk about that, Vedius. And to hear more on H2K's win, let's head it over to Dracos, who is with Shook.
Thank you very much, guys. Great cast of the day. I am joined by Shook. Look, man, I haven't seen you in forever. You come in, you immediately start destroying people. How does it feel to be right back on the LCS stage, finding wins immediately?
I just feel like at stage it doesn't really matter for me, like nervousness doesn't really affect me, so even if I don't play competitive for a long time, like I'll still be able to perform and then just go in, make engages, make my team win the game, and yeah, I'm just glad to be back.
So how much practice time did you actually have with this roster leading into this week? I know it was kind of sudden for a lot of people on the outside to see you to come in the jungle position.
I've played 3 days of scrim with this team, and actually scrims have been going really great, I think. Like we're improved on the fast pace. I think I have really smart players in my team, so they understand the game well, and like I feel like I'm very experienced in the jungle right now. I really know how to make stuff work in the jungle, and yeah, I think we can go far. If we just keep on improving, I have high chances for this team.
So what role do you kind of fit when it comes to team communication? Obviously we can see what you're doing in game, but how do you work kind of outside of the game with this team?
outside of the game, I just like to give input on what we should play for, what the best comps are, like how we should probably play. And in game, I'm just very decisive in my engages, and my team trusts in me already, so it's always nice, and it's going great so far.
All right, so we've just ended the first half of the split for H2K, now 2-7. What does the second half of the split look like now that you're on the team?
I hope we're gonna go far, because I have faith in this team. Like, I think we don't have any bad player or anything. Like, I think they're all good, and yeah, we're just gonna make it happen, and we'll see from now.
Damn good to hear, man. Well, congrats again on the win. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me. For now, we're gonna send to a quick break. When we get back, Misfits and Unicorns of Love going head to head.
On his way, the flash away, but Hiku's brought back. Let's bounce, jumps in. Hiku there, Shook in the front line, the ball. There's a kill for H2K. They're looking for a little bit more with the shockwave from the side. No scam and push up, Fisher down, but it's a double kill for H2K. He's in the hole, the root on Sheriff. Promise Q protects him. The shockwave onto Profit. That's a lot of damage coming out. The Hexagon ultimatum and Norskaven secures the kill on Sheriff.
They can look to force fights.
Flash in straight onto a trap, though. Here goes the double shockwave, the knocker. What a play from H2K. There's the Glacial Piston start onto Shook as well, and maybe he's overextended the route down towards the top side as well. Promise Q goes golden, he's trying to jump away. Shook looking for the re-engage. Promise Q there, double charm, selfie. Shockwave on one, already one's down. Promise trying to fight as well. Promise Q jumps him up. Hexagon made him use. Shook pulled off the quickness onto Profit, trying to catch him out. There's the shockwave double knockup. Profit somehow still alive with the lock of the eyes still over. The last bounce brings them all back into the team. Sadly, Cleanse, they're gonna get on towards Rocket now. Double kill for Shook. Just can't do enough. H2K took them till week 5, but finally they come alive. They clean up the ace and they take down the Nexus.
welcome back to the LCS Spring Split. I'm joined here by Verius and by Amazing to break down our next game, Misfits versus Unicorns of Love. But first, let's wrap up our player of the game of that last match. And Shook won it, and Amazing called it in the beginning. He said this would be a good change for H2K. This would be the beginning of something positive, and a win definitely is.
Yeah, but I can't believe that Trevor's right.
Outside of how important this is for H2K, we're just mad that Trevor is right.
But I must admit that Shook definitely, I like the change that he brought to H2K. I felt like that they were more proactive, we're starting to see more of an identity, and while it did help that Rocket did not play properly to their win conditions, I think this is definitely a positive sign for H2K.
Well, fantastic win for them. Now moving on to Misfits versus the Unicorns of Love. Misfits Gaming's second year in the LCS is well underway, and this time they are going for the top spot. At least that is what we expected before the split, since they reached the summer finals. They took SKT to 5 games at Worlds, but things haven't been going swimmingly, I would say. So for ups and downs, and notably a big down last week when they went 0-2 versus Rocket and Giants. So Verius, what's going on with this team right now? Why did they lose those 2 games?
So last week, I feel like a big factor for them was in the jungle. Maxthor, he really just seemed to be off his game. His shot calling seemed off, his early game decision making just seemed to be out of the loop, and I feel like that he was having a bad week. That then further exemplified some of the bigger issues that this team is having in terms of players like in the middle lane, when you look at players like Senkux compared to previously Paravivo.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Senkux still hasn't filled that hole that Paravivo basically left, because even though everyone criticized Paravivo for his champion pool and maybe for his Nashor's tooth builds on Orianna, he still was his late game carry that he could rely upon, and he was always getting the farm, he was always laning properly, and that's something we haven't seen out of Senkux yet, and I don't think we will.
So does that mean that now Hansama and Alfari, who were already carries last year but just always got outshone by the damage that Paravivo put out, do they have to be even more of a carry, and is that possible?
I feel like that the pressure is definitely on them right now, but you also need some of these individual members to step up so that they're not drawbacks onto these 2 individuals that are trying to carry. I feel like that after listening to Alfari on the Euphoria podcast, we did have an opportunity to hear where during the regular season they're just experimenting, they're trying different things out. Their ultimate goal is to make it to playoffs, but with performances of last week, it might be harder than simply saying that they can secure it.
I don't think that this is the approach they can take anymore. I think that this iteration of Misfits has completely distinct issues to last year's. In last year's, they were outplayed in some kind of team-wide scale where they basically had issues in terms of warding, in terms of not being aggressive enough early game. But I think at this point, they're actually being outplayed mechanically on lanes. And I think this is something you can't magically fix by just having like Hussein talking to the players and like basically making them, holding them accountable. I think this is something that is intrinsically to the players, and I think it may actually be something they cannot fix.
Yeah, they cannot fix. That would be my next question. When you look at those macro things that they evolved on last year, indeed, they definitely took some big strides forward, but it seems like a mechanical issue for individual players, and I know we're mostly talking about Senkux here. Is that going to be a liability that's going to follow them up until playoffs, possibly?
Well, it certainly could, because if you compare Maxthor's performance last week to what we've seen in the past, it's definitely an avenue with which teams could look to take advantage of. Today we've already seen that even if mechanically you might be weaker than your opposition, drafting strong laners and then playing towards that avenue can allow you to build up a lot of advantages. And perhaps this is a way, an avenue in which teams can look to punish Misfits.
Well, definitely. We wouldn't be analysts if we wouldn't also be offering solutions and not just talking about the problems. Well, actually we would. But in this case, we do have something. Betty, so you came up with the ideal team comp you think should work for Misfits Gaming.
So right now, I feel like that as you identified and we discussed, Alfari and Hansa seem to be the key carries of this Misfits roster in the current split. And you look at this composition and you see 2 carries for Alfari and Hansama, mainly directed towards the late game. You put Senkux on a mid lane champion that can offer roaming power, but also has a decent early to mid game spike that can hold his own in lane. And then you put the jungler and support in Mickey on facilitators and playmakers that start initiations. And this way you make the most out of your 2 strengths in Hansama Alfari, you mitigate the weaknesses in Senkux, and you allow the arguably mechanical weak points of this composition right now in terms of Maxthor, and put him on something that can just help contribute to the success of his character.
So you count that weak performance, as you say, by Maxthor last week as enough of a problem that is something they will now have to actively play around?
I think given when you look back at some of the earlier performances where he played Lee Sin in his first week and he missed a Q in his very first tower dive,
alive, and then you compare it to his Sejuani performances where he just seems to be utilizing his superior knowledge. That to me demonstrates a better avenue, style of champion for that current performance.
Why do you giggle to
No,
superior
it's
knowledge?
nothing. I just think for in general, like for Misfits, it's really important that they kind of find a way to basically be more active and find ways to create leads. Like obviously you have to like just take away like the weakness of Senkooks and basically put him on something safe. But it's the same kind of issue that Fnatic had for some time, where Caps was over-aggressive or did plays that he wasn't supposed to do. I think you have to kind of like lift Senkooks up and assist him in some kind of way, because he doesn't get any kind of jungle help right now
Well,
either.
if anything, we want to see Misfits evolving. They will be looking to finish the first half of the split with a win as they face off against the Unicorns of Love. Let's head over to our casters.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Dracos, joined by Martin Official, and it's a good day to Official. Do you know why?
I kind of have an idea.
That's right, because Senkooks gave me a Valentine and not you.
I take it. It's mine. It's Danish. There we go.
All right, well, let's talk about Senkooks' team, since you just want to take everything away from me. They're going to be on the blue side, and it is, of course, Misfits Gaming. Now, Senkooks is a man we have to talk about, not just because he gave me a Valentine that you then stole, but also because he has been a bit of a question mark.
Wow, quick.
His team
Cut to the coach. Yeah, it's been rough for him. I think he's still trying to figure out what kind of style he needs to play on Misfits for them to succeed. I like him on the Roaming Champions, but so far that's not really been successful. Same thing for some of the big carries.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Want to see what he's going to pull out today, if he can find that niche role for himself. But facing Misfits tonight, we've got Unicorns of Love. They're looking to pick up their second win of the split. Now, this is a team that I feel like has been looking better, but it still hasn't quite come together into those wins.
I love that Cold and Exile, right here on our screens, have been playing more together. We see Cold gank the mid lane 3 to 4 times in the early game. Exile gets out of his laning phase. Oh, by the way, the crowd's also saying for White Knight, it is his birthday. He's been around for a long time, but not always in the LCS. Now he's on the stage. I mean, get a win on your birthday?
Happy birthday to White. That would be good. And this is the time. If you are Unicorns of Love and you want to take a win off Misfits, this is the time, man. Misfits have been struggling. They've looked shaky. We heard from Alfari. We heard from Betty talking about hearing from Alfari that this is a team that's struggling. Communication not going the way that they want it to. A lot of these 1-3-1 compositions not working out. And now I want to see what they're going to bring to the table today and how it's going to match up against Unicorns of Love, because they're a team that's been progressing, I feel like, week to week very rapidly.
Their team was learned that drafting good teamfight comps is a nice way to play the game. You don't have to play fancy 1-3-1 comps. You can go for strong backline dive, a scaling mid laner that can one-shot carries, and that style can work for the Unicorns of Love and can definitely work against Misfits, who's been losing in some of these late games when they're trying to play the more fancy drafts that can get outscaled. But Pinkerman face 8.3. Not too many things have changed. The Z has still been banned in 2 of our games despite the nerfs to his early game. We have seen slightly less stopwatches and slightly less spellbooks in the game, so that's at least a nice change.
It is good to see, but as we get through some of the more standard bans in this portion of Champions Select, let's take a look back on some of the team fighting that we're talking about for Unicorns of Love, show some of the improvement that they've been able to make happen, especially in their game versus Fnatic.
Yeah, this was a big one, obviously, when Fnatic were pushing for the turret and Unicorns of Love instantly realized, oh wait, Source is not here yet, we can just engage onto them, and the Zyra Khan combo actually works for them because it gives them engage they can use. Now obviously, just when we're highlighting the good team fighting, we get Fnatic's team fight against them, which ultimately meant that Unicorns of Love did not win this game, had good moments, came close, then this happened.
They were on the precipice, though, and we have to give them that credit. They did look good, of course, overstepped in the end, but I want to see if they're going to go towards the same things today. Vladimir already taken off the board. That's a big team fighting pick.
Also, fine for Unicorns that gets removed, because it's been a pick used against them in the past, but of course White Knight had a good performance on it last week. GP banned because Alfari is the best gangplank in Europe, so that makes a lot of sense on their side, and Unicorns tend to hate Tom Kench and just ban it every game.
But Galio going to get the first pick. I think it's the first time we have not seen a Rise first pick today.
Fun fact, Senkooks loves Galio, it's his style, but he's 0-2 on the champion so far in the ULCS. It's not been working out for Misfits when they've used it. Issues snowballing the side lanes. It's kind of hurt the team a bit, but I still like it. I think Galio is super, super strong. Gnar for White Knight, very early on being drafted. Now, Camille is banned, which of course could be one of the answers to it, so it does make it a little bit safer. Alfari's Jace is a possibility if you want to try and stomp the top lane. but you can still just take a tank and accept that you are losing the early laning phase a little bit, but have great scaling.
And two things that I love, putting Senkux on a champion he's comfortable on, even if it hasn't netted them a lot of wins, and of course, the Xayah, we talked about Xayah Rakan being huge for Unicorns of Love in their match versus Fnatic. I want to see if they get the full combo here.
And you really don't want to take Rakan now if you're Misfits, because alone Rakan is